today, Matt. Thank you for the call. Hello.
You betcha, Chris. Yeah, Mr. Johnson and a life wouldn't last too long down here, I don't think. I would believe that Mr. Savage would agree that the law has its roots in morality. And I think if this approach or a variation of it might move this issue forward and bring some resolution. I would like to see Mr. Savage write an open letter to Mr. Johnson and say, thank you for the moral fortitude you've shown thus far. All right? And then ask him openly, I'd like to bring you a token of my esteem, be it a book. Heck, I'd throw in a pair of boots and a Stetson hat if he wants to bring it. And say, I'd like to come over and thank you, but only if you're able to clear the way for me and make sure that I'm not going to be detained at the airport. Would you?
A public and polite challenge, Matt. Your idea, a public and polite challenge of Alan Johnson, the new Home Secretary, by Dr. Michael Savage. Matt, it's an interesting thought. By the way, thank you for the phone call. The rights, the broadcast rights to the 2012 Olympics. Oh, this is interesting. NBC, General Electric, Jeffrey Immelt. We know that crew, don't we? The MSNBC. That could be interesting. In a presidential election year with the broadcast rights of the 2012 Olympics in the UK, NBC, the broadcaster. NBC standing to profit. NBC, no doubt, in full tilt, pom-pom shaking mode by the time Barack Obama runs against his challenger for another 4 years in the White House. 2012 will be an interesting year. Where will you be? Will Michael Savage be here? Let's hope so, on both accounts. MichaelSavage.com, 800-449-8255. I'm Chris, in for Dr. Savage. Be right back.
The fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. I'm Glenn Beck, weekdays, noon to 3 on Talk 910 KNEW.
Coast to coast and around the world, it's the Savage Nation. Chris Stigall in for Dr. Savage, taking a day to strategize with his legal counsel what is next. What's the plan of action as the British ban on his presence on their soil remains in effect. Originally crafted by Home Secretary Jackie Smith, who has since left under scandal and ridicule. Alan Johnson, the man that came after her, seemed to suggest he was going to remove Michael Savage from this list. He has not. The British Embassy confirming today, and this is all to be found at michaelsavage.com, confirming today he is still very much on this list with no real movement to take him off of such a list or do away with it. And, you know, what does it mean? I continue to focus during this show, and you, I know, who are fans of the Savage Nation, you're obviously concerned immediately for Dr. Savage. The broader implications, and Dr. Savage's concern, is not purely of his own self-interest. It is really what it means for the greater good in terms of free speech and what is on the march. Is this a template? Is our government culpable in the UK's behavior? Did they have something to do with this? Is this a trial balloon? Their silence could lead some of us in broadcasting to believe our government sees nothing particularly wrong with such a ban on a mere radio talk show host, and that perhaps such a ban could be necessary here in the future. I don't think it's that hard to get your head wrapped around. And I was reminded during the break of the passing of Walter Cronkite, America's most trusted man, a man who perverted journalism. He's the grandfather of perverted journalism, in my opinion. Walter Cronkite is the first man ever given credit in media for offering his opinion, his take on, that's the way it is statement of his that closed out each newscast actually should have been, that's the way I see it. That's the way it is according to me, not according to fact, but according to my opinion. Walter Cronkite was by no means a true journalist in the sense of the who, what, where, when, and why. He became a commentator. He was the first one to blur those lines. Now, as long as you had acceptable speech, Walter Cronkite was sort of I guess you could say, Walter Cronkite was maybe the first talk radio host. He reported news, but commented on it. He was a news and comment guy, not a journalist, not a newsman. He formed opinion. He had a tremendous amount of influence at the time. Thankfully, that has been scaled back. No one individual on television or in print has a dominant forum anymore. They're not nearly as powerful as they used to be. It's largely due to the success of the Savage Nation, those of you listening, and Dr. Savage himself. But I think back to something I stumbled across while doing a little research. I was working on a paper regarding Walter Cronkite this weekend. All the tributes, and it was one after another, the tributes from all the anchor people, just in love with themselves and in love with him. I noted that there was there were no tribute, even when Michael Jackson died a few weeks ago. It was fan-based. The fans wanted to cry. The fans wanted to gather. There was no such thing for Walter Cronkite. It was almost this manufactured fandom. No one really was a fan of his. Only the industry, other supposed journalists, were fans of his. Well, you look at Walter Cronkite, who crafted the perverted journalism model of news and comment instead of just straight reporting, and then you look at what he did in his retirement years. In 1998, he became a proponent of world government, folks. Now, this sort of attitude was from the most trusted man in America, supposedly. A proponent of world government. Writing in a fundraising letter for an organization now called Citizens for Global Solutions, he wrote, "This chills me. This is America's most," and that's the way it is. That's the man who takes off the glasses. President Kennedy died. The man on the moon, the genteel, avuncular granddad, wrote this in a fundraising letter. It seems to many of us that if we are to avoid the eventual catastrophic world conflict, we must strengthen the United Nations as a first step toward a world government patterned after our own government, with a legislature, executive, and judiciary, and police to enforce its international laws and keep the peace. To do that, and here is the money quote, folks, and this sort of attitude is very real, and it's been around this country for a very long time, and it is thicker and more prominent than ever before. These are the words of Walter Cronkite. To do this, we Americans will have to yield up some of our sovereignty. That would be a bitter pill. It would take a lot of courage, a lot of faith in the new order. Granddad, America's most trusted newsman, Walter Cronkite. Jackie Smith would have a field day with the Walter Cronkite model.
Savage. Michael Savage.
Afternoons 3 to 7.
On Talk 910 KNEW.
And online at 910knew.com.
You're not going to do it. You're not getting... No! No! No, you're not! Oh, no, you didn't! Oh, no, you didn't! Blacklist Michael Savage over there in the United Kingdom? No, you didn't! Every radio listener talk show, and hey, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, let's get on the case. Don't you remember the saying, if they come for your neighbor in the morning, they'll be coming for you by sundown?
Pastor David James Manning, very well aware of the threat, the ban, the blacklisting of Michael Savage in the UK, what that means to him as a preacher. Probably next, once the talk show hosts have been come for, the preachers, the pastors, the rabbis, the clerics, they're next. Hate speech, that's the subject on the Savage Nation. My name is Chris Stigall, in for Dr. Savage. Michael, I am thrilled to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity. Michael is strategizing at this hour with his legal counsel what his next step should be. That's my question for you. What should Michael Savage's next step be? 800-449-8255. The news over the weekend seemed promising that the United Kingdom, with their new leadership as Home Secretary, in the office of Home Secretary, Alan Johnson would remove Michael Savage from this ban. One of 16 individuals that former Home Secretary Jackie Smith declared unwelcome. And it looked initially, and the stories are up, all for you to read in chronological order at michaelsavage.com. It looked as though Johnson was leaning on striking not only this ban, but striking the idea of a list banning people from the country ever again. As of today, the brand new news, if you're new to the program and have not heard, the press office of the British Embassy in Washington, D.C. has confirmed that Michael Savage still remains persona non grata in Britain. The press representative at the embassy in D.C. today indicated that while no visa is required of Americans visiting England, Michael Savage would be detained by immigration authorities if he attempted to enter the country, and he would be refused entry. As recently as yesterday, the British Home Office informed the embassy office there has been no change in the Michael Savage ban. So resting on your laurels is not an option here. If free speech, Dr. Savage, the Savage Nation, and